okay, you just saw my outfit. I would never dress like this. I would never go out and dress like this. But the reason I did this, I'm part of this group that's having us through all these challenges to get over our anxiety and our fears. I had to come on here and just talk about it because it like kind of changed my whole mindset. Um, like I became a stylist because I wanted to help people become more confident in how they present themselves to the world. I had this idea that, if you could present yourself in a certain way and have an idea of who you wanted to be, and you could become that through the way you dress, through the way you styled yourself, you would eventually become that person. And then you would be happy, right? You'd be fulfilled. You'd feel like whatever. You'd feel fulfilled and you feel good. But I realize there's another layer to it. Like me dressing like this today, dressing crazy, is something I would never do. Like I see it as, I would have seen it as going against my identity, because my identity right now is someone who is whimsical, who's creative, who's expressive, who's imaginative, and all of that comes out in the way that I dress. And I see the way I dress as an external reflection of my inner world, right? It took a long time for me to get there because there was a time when I was dressing for validation. I didn't have a sense of style. I was just dressing because I wanted to be perceived a certain way. Like, for example, when I dressed like crap for years, like in high school and college, I didn't care. I didn't care how I dressed. I dressed myself. I didn't care how I dressed. And it really hit me. There were a few times in my life where I was dressed like a bum, right? Because my at that time my outer clothing reflected how I felt on the inside. I felt like a bum. I didn't feel good about myself. I was a student at the time. I was very stressed. Didn't feel good about myself. And so I was wearing these outfits, like just sweatpants and sweatshirts, baggy shirts. My hair wasn't done. And I would go into these public places. I'd go to like the train. I'd go to catch the train. And like no one would want to sit next to me, right? Because I looked a certain way. And I couldn't get a seat. Like the conductor actually had to, I didn't smell or anything, but the conductor had to come and say, like, hey, like this person needs to sit down. I need to sit down. And there was an open seat next to this lady, but she totally lied and said that she was waiting for her husband. Whatever, that's her. But it's the fact that sometimes when you look a certain way, you're perceived to be a certain way, and then people sometimes don't want to be around you. They don't want to associate with you. They don't want you around them. There was another time when I was going to go babysit my nephew, and my sister, she's like, she was well to do, doing pretty well for herself. She was successful. She lived in a very luxury apartment complex. And I went there dressed in my usual bum clothes, sweatpants, sweatshirt. And the people at the front desk were like, "Oh my gosh, do you belong here?" In their minds. And there's layers of bias there, right? The way I look, race, all those things could always play a factor. But from that point on, I was like, you know what? I'm always going to endeavor to look my best wherever I go. Even if I'm going to the store, I'm always going to look like decent, right? Because those were lessons to me. I didn't like being seen, or I didn't like being perceived that way. So it was my mission to change the perception of how people saw me, right? So I always dressed up no matter what from that point on. That was like, gosh, I was back in 2009 or 2010. So that was like a milestone time in my life, right? And then years later, I got a job. I was still overweight. I couldn't lose the weight. It was very frustrating to me. And I couldn't figure out, like, I guess because my identity was not fully formed yet. And well, whose identity is fully formed? We're always changing, right? But I didn't identify with a person that was slim or thin or whatever, or that weight that I had in my mind. I couldn't, even when I would get to that weight, I couldn't stay there, right? It wasn't until I really internalized the feeling of living like a person that was already at that weight that things started to shift for me, and the weight started to be permanent. You know, there's fluctuations here and there, but for the most part, I've remained consistent. And that was another milestone for me. Um, I think today I had to dress in a way that I would not normally dress. And this was a challenge for me because I said, you know, hey, I have this whole concept around looking my best and looking good wherever I go because it's a confidence boost to me and it's a reflection of me. But actually, I got some new insight, which this is why I'm making the video. Um, it's not about it's not about that. I realized people are always going to label you, people are always going to categorize you, people are always going to put you in a box. There's really nothing you can do about that. I could be dressed to the nines right now, and the same thing would happen. People are always going to label you. People are judging me right now. People, or they don't care because I'm like talking in the middle of the park, right? It doesn't matter. I'm dressed like this. It doesn't matter because the people that I do care about, the people who are in my life that I actually do care about, they know who I am. They know they are valuable to me. I'm valuable to them. And they know me as I am. And that's really all that matters. And I think this is really going to be a shift in how I work with people who are looking for their signature look or their signature style, or they're looking to be styled. It's not about being impressive. It's not about wanting to be seen a certain way because people are going to see you however they want to see you, right? It's more about, if you want to dress in a certain way, is it a reflection of your inner state? Is it a reflection of your inner world and what you want to communicate? Is there a story that you're looking to tell that you want to communicate? I think that's far more valuable and far more important than trying to be impressive or trying to, you know, check a certain box or look cool or look luxurious or look like wealthy or whatever your goal is. You know, I think it's more important that your clothing reflects your inner state, your inner world, your imagination, and your creativity. And I think that's the direction I'm going to go now with myself. Because even though I'm dressed kind of like eccentric, like a bum, like usually I would see it and be like, "Oh, this is bad because I'm not taking pride in how I look. I'm not taking pride in what I wear." But my value is already here inside of me, and however way I look is however way I look. I see this as performance art right now. This is a experiment. This is a project for me. And it doesn't mean that I'm a sloppy person. It doesn't mean that I don't have my stuff together. I'm just experimenting. And my value as a person doesn't change because of that. And I realize that. And it's like, it's a big deal for me because it's like a whole mindset shift. You know, I'm 36 and I spent my life dressing in a way that I thought was going to be acceptable or impressive or, you know, appropriate. Um, and I tied the way people perceived me to my value. And I know that's like, you know, a lot of us do that. And maybe that's like very basic to everyone. That's a very basic concept. But I hope what I'm trying to say is coming across. Maybe I'll try making this video again so it's more clear. But yeah, I hope that you dress in the way that feels the best to you. And it's not to impress anyone else, but it's truly just for you. So good luck out there. Stay blessed.